We'll continue the play The Swan and the Princess. So we have in the page number 77. So now you could see that Siddhartha had come to the court with the guard and he has a swan in his arm. Okay. So king addresses Siddhartha like this. So he says, Siddhartha, Devadatta says that you have taken his swan. Is that the swan which you took from him? So he is asking, looking at the swan that he has in his arm. So he looked at that and he asked Siddhartha, is that the swan which you have taken from him? Him here refers to Devadatta. Siddhartha says, Your Highness, Devadatta has complained about this swan, but it is not his swan, it's mine. So Siddhartha very calmly, okay, he answered to the question to the king. Okay, he says, Devadatta has complained about this swan, yes, right, but it is not his swan, it's mine. Okay, so he is answering to the king. He says, yes, of course, the swan that I have in my hand, it is the one Devadatta had shot, but it is not his, it's mine. Devadatta, no, your highness, it's not his, it's mine. I shot it with an arrow. Siddhartha is telling a lie. So when Siddhartha said to the king that it is not his, it's mine, so Devadatta, who was there, okay, immediately he says to the king that no, it is not his. Okay, it is his. That means it is Devadatta's. Why he says it is his? He says that because he had shot the bird. That means he has shot the swan with an arrow. And he also says that Siddhartha is telling a lie. He is telling a lie. Okay, so this is how he justify himself. He says it is not his. I shot the bird and it belongs to me. And Siddhartha is telling a lie. He says he's not telling the truth. He's telling a lie. It belongs to me. So who is telling this? Devadatta. Okay. So when Siddhartha said, yes, according to the complaint, this is the swan. Okay. But it is not his. It's mine. So Siddhartha says it is his. Okay. Though Devadatta says, no, it doesn't belong to him. Siddhartha is telling the lie. Okay. I shot a bird with an arrow. So it should belong to him. King. Be calm, Devadatta. So, king is trying to console. He is saying, Devadatta, have patience. You say that the swan is yours because you shot it. Is that right? So when the Devadatta was arguing, that means when he was justifying, saying that Siddhartha is telling the lie and it belongs to him, he shot the bird. Okay, so king says, be calm, have a patience. And you said the swan is yours because you shot it. Is that right? Okay. Devadatta. Yes, sir. That's quite right. So Devadatta says, yes, it's right. King. What do you say, Siddhartha? Why do you say that the swan is yours? So here now, king is asking Siddhartha, why does he say that the swan belonged to him? Though it has been shot by Devadatta and it should belong to him, then here he is asking Siddhartha why does, or why he justify, or why he claims the swan. Okay, so he is asking, why do you say, so king is asking Siddhartha, why do you say that the swan belonged to his? Siddhartha, Your Majesty, Devadatta shot the swan, but I saved its life. That's why it's mine. Who said? Siddhartha. King asked, why do you say that the swan belongs to you? So Siddhartha says, Devadatta shot the bird, but I here refers to Siddhartha. He says, I saved the bird, so it should belong to me. So this is how he justifies. He says he had saved the bird, so it should belong to him, and that's why he said the bird belongs to him. Minister. Here. So ministers, there are 4 ministers in the court. So those who were listening to this thing, so say, listen, what Siddhartha is saying. Since he had saved the life of the bird, so he says that it should belong to him. Okay. King. Listen, Siddhartha, a Kshatriya cannot give up what he has shot. Do you agree with me? So you know that in Hindu society, members are organized. It means they are classified into 4 groups. That is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Okay. And what is the duty of the Kshatriya? Kshatriya is the one who protects the society. You fight in the war and they look after the society during the peace time. So here king is trying to convince, trying to justify, that means they're trying to solve the matter by making Siddhartha to understand that a Kshatriya, a person, that means the one who has shot the bird, he will never give up. That means he will never leave. Give up means they leave. So he says a Kshatriya cannot give up. He cannot leave what he has shot. Do you agree with you? So when did he say? When Siddhartha says, I saved the life of the bird, so it should belong to him. So the king says a Kshatriya cannot give up what he has shot. Okay? Do you agree with me? So the king is telling this to Siddhartha. Siddhartha says, yes, I do, sir. But a Kshatriya cannot give up a suppliant either. Suppliant means a person seeks something humbly. Okay, so here it trying to say that, okay, a person, that means a Kshatriya cannot give up a suppliant either. That means it means that he's trying to say that he cannot give up, he cannot leave a person who has come to him for the protection. Okay, so he says like how a Kshatriya cannot give up what he has shot, similarly a Kshatriya cannot give up the thing, that means the person who has come to him for protection. Okay, so the bird has come to his protection, that means he had saved the life and he had protected the life, so he says it should belong to him. He cannot give up a suppliant either. That means he had protected, that means he had swan had come to him, so he had protected, so like this he cannot give the swan to him. Okay, so he says a Kshatriya cannot give up a suppliant either. So this swan came to me for protection and I cannot give up. Okay, so when does this thing happen? When Prince Siddhartha say that this swan belongs to his because he had protected its life. So the king tried to convince, tried to say Siddhartha that a Kshatriya cannot give up what he had shot. But Siddhartha in return he says that Kshatriya cannot give up a suppliant either. That means a person, a swan had come to him for the protection and he had saved, so it is the Kshatriya's duty also to protect the life of the something, so he has done it, so it belongs to him. Devadatta, your highness, this is injustice. Okay, so the Devadatta, after hearing to Siddhartha, he says it's injustice. Injustice. So in, it is prefix. Okay, a word that is added before a main root word. Okay, justice, injustice. Prefix, that means a word that is fixed before the main word, it is called as a prefix. Okay, so and he says, Devadatta says it's injustice. I shot the swan, so it is mine. Okay, so he's arguing. Devadatta is arguing and he's trying to understand the king that he has shot the bird and it should belong to him. Okay, king, well boys, I'm puzzled. Okay, puzzled means confused. So the king who listened to both the Devadatta and Siddhartha, he was confused and he doesn't know how to solve this matter because both of them are justifying and they fighting that they claim the bird. So the king says, I'm puzzled, I'm confused. Okay, it's a strange case. Okay, I don't know how to decide it. So to the chief minister, can you help me? So he asked the chief minister, can you help me? Okay, so I think you all understood. The king was puzzled, that is, he was confused. Okay, and he asked the chief minister, can you help me? Chief minister, I'll try, your highness. So the chief minister says, I'll try. King, very well then, please go ahead. So when chief minister agrees to solve this matter, king says, well, go ahead. Okay, he says, continue. Okay, so now the chief minister takes the case and he says, Prince Siddhartha and Prince Devadatta, please listen to me. Prince Devadatta says that the swan is his because he had shot it. And Prince Siddhartha says that it is his because he saved the life. Am I right? So, he is calling both of them, that means Siddhartha and Devadatta, and he tries to make it clear. That means he says one, that is Devadatta says he shot the bird and he says it belongs to him. And Siddhartha says he saved the life, so it belonged to him. So he is trying to make it clear and he is asking, is that right? Okay. Siddhartha and Devadatta, yes, you are right. So both of them agreed. Okay. Chief Minister, good. Now, Prince Siddhartha, please put the swan on this stool. Okay, so they might have kept the stool there. So Chief Minister asked Prince Siddhartha to keep the swan on the stool. Okay, Siddhartha puts the swan on the stool and goes back to the place. Okay, and he comes forward and keeps the swan on the stool and he goes back. The swan is frightened and keeps looking at Siddhartha. Okay, so it was frightened and he looks at Siddhartha. Okay, Chief Minister, Prince Devadatta, please come forward and ask the swan to come to you. So now he asks Devadatta to go forward. That means go towards the swan and call the swan. Okay, and ask the swan to come to you. That means you call the swan. Devadatta coming forward. Okay, come to me, oh swan, come, come, come. The swan trembles and cries with fear. So Chief Minister asks Devadatta to go and call the bird. It means to ask the swan to come to him. So Devadatta goes near the swan and he says, oh swan, come, come, come. What does the swan do? He trembles, he shivers with fear and cries with the fear. The swan trembles and cries with the fear. So when did this happen? When Devadatta had gone to call the bird. So when Devadatta called the bird to come to him, so what did the bird do? It trembled. That means it shivered with the fear and began to shed tears. That means it began to cry. Okay, with fear. Chief Minister, that will do, Prince Devadatta. Now, it's your turn to call the swan, Prince Siddhartha. Okay, so now he tells Siddhartha to go and to call the bird. So Devadatta goes back and Siddhartha comes forward. Okay, so I think you all understood. Chief Minister asked Siddhartha to keep the swan on the stool, and he kept the swan on the stool, and he calls Devadatta to go to the bird and ask the bird to come to him. So what did the bird do? Did it come? No, it did not come. It began to frighten. It means it frightened and began to cry. Okay, swan trembled and cried with the fear. Now Chief Minister asked Siddhartha to go to the bird and call the bird. So Siddhartha going near to the swan, dear swan, don't be afraid. I have come to you. Come and sit on my arms. What did the swan do? The swan at once flies onto Siddhartha's arms. Okay, so Siddhartha goes to the bird, he goes closer to the bird and he calls the bird very softly and he says the bird, don't be afraid. Okay, come to me, come and sit on my arms. So he politely, okay, very calmly, okay, he called the bird. So what did the bird do? It immediately flew and sat on Siddhartha's arms. Okay, Chief Minister, Your Highness, the swan has decided the case. Okay, so what is the judgment now? How did the case was solved? The the bird has decided the case. So when Devadatta called, it did not come. When Siddhartha called, it had come and sat on his arms. So the chief minister says the swan had decided the case. King, it was indeed. So the king says it is indeed. Yes, yes. Okay, it was indeed. So the king says yes, yes. And we accept the decision. So the king says yes, we should accept the decision. The swan belonged to the prince Siddhartha. So the king announced, okay, saying that the swan belonged to the Siddhartha. So finally, all praised Siddhartha. So all say, long live Prince Siddhartha. So all praised Siddhartha's humble nature. Okay, so this is how the case of the swan was solved. Okay, so from this